All right. Okay, so for this video, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go over the lesson summary, and then I'll show you like the number one most important problem. I'm going to show you a strategy that I'd like you to try using in the future. Okay, so lesson 5 summary. In the past, you learned that a fraction such as 4/5 can be thought of in a few ways. 4/5 is a number you can locate on a number line by dividing the section between 0 and 1 into 5 equal parts, and then counting 4 of those parts to the right of 0. So if this is my number line, 0 and 1, and we're going to do 4/5, so we're going to put 1, 2, 3. 4 lines makes 5 spaces. This is 1/5, 2/5, 3/5, 4/5, and then 1 is 5/5. So the number 4/5 is that number right there, 4/5. 4/5 is a share that each person would have if 4 wholes were shared equally among 5 people. This means that the 4/5 is the result of dividing 4 by 5. So if I had 1, 2, 3, 4 things, and I'm dividing them with 5 people, I actually prefer to do 1, 2, 3, 4 things, and I'm dividing it between 5 people. 1, 2, 3. So each person would get that much. Each person would get 1/5, 2/5, 3/5, 4/5. 4 divided by 5. 4/5, 4 divided by 5, same thing. Okay. This is the new thing for today. We can extend this meaning of a fraction as a quotient to fractions whose numerators and denominators are not whole numbers. Okay, for example, we can represent 4.5 pounds of rice divided into portions that each weigh 1.5 pounds as 4.5 divided by 1.5. You can write it as a fraction, you can write it as a division statement, and the value, when you evaluate that and simplify it down, the value is 3. In other words, 4.5 divided by 1.5 is 3 because the quotient of 4.5 and 1.5 is 3. Okay. And this is something I've been showing you this all year. So if this doesn't feel new, great. If this does feel new, that's okay. Fractions that involve non-whole numbers can also be used to solve equations. Suppose a road under construction is 3/8 finished and the length of the completed part is 4/3 miles. How long will the road be when completed? We can write the equation 3/8 x equals 4/3 to represent the situation and solve the equation. Okay, so let's look at that. So this is the kind of problem we were solving these kind of problems in our division unit. Well, our problem solving with fractions unit. And we're doing the same type of problem, but we're using a different strategy. And the different strategy is that I'm writing an algebraic equation. 3/8 times x is 4/3. Okay. So then here it's 3/8 times x. So I'm going to divide both sides by 3/8. Divide both sides by 3/8. So then I get 1x is 4/3 divided by 3/8. And remember, if we're dividing by a fraction, the way that you divide by a fraction is you multiply times the reciprocal. So then 4/3 divided by 3/8 has the same answer as 4/3 times 8/3, which is 32/9, or 3 5/9 miles. So the completed road will be 3 5/9, or about 3.6 miles long. Okay. In the past, this kind of problem seems to be the most challenging for students to learn how to do. So let's look at one from the problem set. Okay. 2/5 equals 1/2 x. Okay. What I'm going to do here, there's 2 ways to do this. You can divide, or you can use multiplication. Which is going to be 2/5 equals 1/2 x. So I'm gonna do it both ways for you. My favorite way is the second way. but you could use either way if you want to. Okay, so if I'm going to divide both sides, It's 1/2 times x. So if I divide by 1/2, that's going to give me 1x, which is what I want. To keep things in balance, if I divide the right-hand side by 1/2, I need to divide the other side by 1/2. This keeps it in balance. So I've got 2/5 divided by 1/2. And you can write that as a division sentence using the division symbol, or you can write it as a fraction. When I'm actually evaluating, I find it easier to do it this way. Okay. Then remember, when we divide by a fraction, that's the same thing as multiplying times the reciprocal. So it's going to be 2/5 times 2/1 equals 1x. 2 times 2 is 4. 5 times 1 is 5. So x equals 4/5. Okay. On this side, my goal is to get 1x. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply by a fraction that's going to give me 1x on the right-hand side. So what fraction is that going to be? That's going to be the reciprocal. This is what a reciprocal is. It's the fraction that you multiply a fraction by to make it equal 1. 1 times 2. So if I'm doing, we'll do this over here. 1/2 times 2/1. 1 times 2 is 2. 2 times 1 is 2. This is the same thing as 1. So if I multiply 1/2 x times 2/1, I'm going to get 1x, which makes sense because 1/2 times 2 is 1. If I multiply the right-hand side by 2/1, I have to do the same thing on the left-hand side to keep it in balance. 2 times 2 is 4. 1 times 5 is 5. So 1 equals 4/5 x. We got the same answer. And if you didn't notice, I'm going to show you now. I did 2/5 times 2/1 in both things here, right? So if I divide by 1/2, that's the same thing as multiplying by 2/1. This is why the multiply by the reciprocal strategy is my favorite, because it's like one step faster. It's like one step more efficient. They both work. When I divide by a fraction, I'm going to multiply by the reciprocal anyway. Might as well just do that from the beginning. That's my opinion. Okay. So to get credit for watching this video, number 1, you have to watch it, which you just did. Number 2, I'm going to give you a fraction division problem. Sorry, I'm going to give you an equation where the coefficient of x is a fraction, and you can choose to solve it using the division strategy. You can choose to solve it using the multiply by the reciprocal strategy. If you have a different strategy, that's great. I want you to try to use one of these two just to practice it so that you have this as a tool in your toolbox for the future. Okay, so let's do this. The one I want you to solve is 5 equals 2/3 of x. So go ahead and solve it. If your answer is not a whole number, please leave it as a fraction. Do not give me a decimal. Okay, leave your answer as a fraction. And then describe what you did in the discussion thread. Okay, thanks. And I hope this is helpful.